Hola mi gente, ¿cómo están? Me llamo Alba Mar, me pueden decir Alba. Estamos aquí para hablar de libros, algunos de ellos en español desde Puerto Rico. Hello people, my name is Alba Mar. You may call me Alba, the channel name is Seriela. And we're here to talk about books and some of them in Spanish from Puerto Rico. First of all, welcome to all the new subscribers here from dear friends from other channels that have mentioned me and this channel in their non-fiction November shoutouts. I will link them down below because there have been so many. I'm so grateful to all of you for mentioning me. October has been a very busy reading month for me. First of all, I want to apologize for the noise. There's some kind of construction going on. There's a generator that's been on since the wee hours of the morning. I don't know what's happening. So let's get this going so it'll be the best for you and for me. In October, there was Victober, a Count of Monte Cristo read-along, a buddy read, Gone with the Book, and my regular Puerto Rican books as part of Latinxathon, which got rolled over into Hispanic Heritage Month. Okay, so but the first book that I finished wasn't related to any of those events. No, I was captivated by someone's review of Evicted, Poverty and Profit in the American City by Matthew Desmond, which follows 8 families struggling to pay rent to their landlords during the financial crisis of 2007 and 2008. I immediately borrowed the book digitally from the library, and I was so very much impressed by the writing, by the research, by the information contained in this book, that I knew I wanted it for future reference. So I ordered it, and it is here already. And if I ever do a rereading series like Britta Bowler has on her channel, Evicted will be one of the first ones. It is that powerful. I then read the English translation of El Grito de Lares, Puerto Rico's Revolt for Independence, El Grito de Lares by Olga Jimenez de Wagenheim, in which she presents the colonial policies, the economic and the social conditions that led to the first attempt in Puerto Rico to revolt against their colonial condition under Spain. She also offers an interpretation as to why Cuba and Puerto Rico's independence movements lag so far behind the rest of Latin America. She also offers a detailed look at the social and economic conditions of the movement's leaders. This book remains one of the most definitive history books about the 1868 revolt, and I'm glad that the English version is out for all of our people in the diaspora, for which English is their first language. Another nonfiction book rolled over from Latinxathon into Hispanic Heritage Month was Signing in Puerto Rico, A Hearing Son and His Deaf Family by Andres Torres. Now, what struck me about this author's journey was his ever-present search for his identity in the diaspora, which is something that happens to a lot of us. But with the added element of being a child of deaf parents and how he dealt with being their interpreter. It's also fascinating the analysis that he makes of the underlying hierarchy within his deaf family based on whether the deaf person received an education in sign language or not, and their birth position, believe it or not, among the hearing siblings. For example, an elder deaf sister could command more respect and authority than a later born sibling. I especially appreciated his honesty. He was very honest about his struggle to become independent of his parents, realizing how much his parents depended on him. And it was engrossing to see how he dealt with those issues. It was a very gratifying read. One more Puerto Rican history book rolled over from Latinxathon into Hispanic History Month was Truman y Puerto Rico, el origen de un proyecto descolonizador fallido by Ángel Collado Schwartz, which is the origin of a failed decolonization project, in which he calls the Commonwealth a failed decolonization project. He talks about Puerto Rico's important geopolitical position in the Caribbean for the American military during the hysteria of the Cold War, and how Washington, in the persons of FDR and his close personal friend, Admiral William Leahy, and then President Truman, how they created a way to keep Puerto Rico a colony by changing its name and pretending to give it a new constitution. According to Collado Schwartz, Puerto Rico maintains its colonial status to satisfy strategic Cold War military needs that have since become obsolete. I hope this is translated soon for all those Puerto Ricans in the diaspora whose first language is now English. And now, finishing The Mill on the Floss, which is put away in my red books, was my Victober victory. Ever since starting it last year at the end of Victober, I had wanted to dedicate myself entirely to concentrating on that book because I recognized how powerful Eliot's depiction of that particular section of society in England at the time, at that specific time, how powerful her depiction was. I relished every minute of that reading. Eliot's writing style, her wit, the satire. I loved how she drew her characters, each and every one of them, and the dynamics and the conflicts between them. I loved the dialogue. I hated the ending. Thank you for alerting me, Alan Morton. I hated the ending, but I loved everything else about The Mill on the Floss. I have to mention that I read it along with an audiobook. I listened while I read. That's available on Scribd, which added so much to the experience. The narrator was phenomenal, and I'm definitely looking forward to every single one of George Eliot's novels in the future. I also had a buddy read with Judy at Reader Woman. We had read Persuasion together for our birthday month in August and decided to continue with Emma by Jane Austen. And I'm glad to have Judy to temper my reactions to some of Austen's characters. As she did with Persuasion, she did again here with Emma. I think this is a book that I'll have to revisit many, many times before I can appreciate it as others do because of its humor. It just went completely over my head. I felt like I was reading an Austen version of a high school TV series or movie, and I couldn't wait for Emma to get her comeuppance early on from the very first. I looked for a film adaptation, but when I saw that it was with Gwyneth Paltrow, didn't tempt me at all. So it's Team Persuasion and Team Pride and Prejudice for me, until now. By the time I read Oscar Wilde's plays for Victober, A Woman of No Importance and The Importance of Being Earnest, which I read and I listened to on audiobook, on Scribd also, I was exhausted. I was tired of the landed gentry and their supposed wit. Sorry. I read the plays on Scribd, as I said before, and it was another case of not getting the jokes. I think I'll have to wait to read many, many more Victorian novels and plays to appreciate the hilarity that everyone says that they contain. Sorry. Maybe I'll have better luck with The Picture of Dorian Gray. Now, as for The Count of Monte Cristo, the read-along with Didi at Brown Girl Reading, which I will link below, began in October. I have to keep myself from binging on this alone for these 2 months. I can hardly put it down. It is so good. I've decided to use it as a reward for getting my chores done, for watching the dishes, for doing my errands, for reading other books. I'll do that, and then I reward myself with some reading of The Count of Monte Cristo. Love it. Already more than halfway through it. And then there's my Gone with the book, which is for Mel at Mel's Bookland Adventures event. I'll link that one down below too. Reading a book that was written during the first half of the last century. And this is La Llamarada by Enrique Laguerre, Enrique Laguerre, which is a novel about a sugar plantation in 1930s Puerto Rico. And surprisingly, it's going very slowly for me, because despite the main characters having been identified from the very beginning as a poor university student who has just graduated as an agronomist and just gotten his first job at this sugar corporation, his language is straight out of our Spanish version of the King James Bible. Sometimes he goes into hágase, sentíame, figurábame, habíame. And I feel as frustrated as I felt as an 18-year-old freshman at the University of Puerto Rico when I didn't speak or read Spanish and had to look up every other word in the Spanish-English dictionary. And I don't understand why. Because at other times he can communicate and express himself directly. I don't understand why, if the main character is supposed to be a recently graduated poor student, not a university professor in the ivory tower, I don't understand why he expresses himself that way. But I'm not giving up, because I want to finish it by November 19th. So I want to finish La Llamarada before November 19th, which is the day that Puerto Rico was supposedly discovered by Christopher Columbus in 1493. Now, really quick, I want to get to the other small victories and joys in October. I discovered 2 libraries, lending libraries in Puerto Rico. And I will link the videos down below. They're in Spanish, for those who are interested. One is in San Juan and another is in Dorado, and I think they were originated by North Americans who missed their libraries. I will also link down below a Facebook page for those who are still on Facebook of librarians in Puerto Rico who are campaigning for more libraries in Puerto Rico. And I went to a history tour to the mountains of Jayuya, and the theme was the insurrection of the nationalists in 1950. And I will link that video down below also. And even though it's in Spanish, it has subtitles, English subtitles. So check it out if you want. And last but not least, there is Judy at the channel Reader Woman, who has just started a series, a hilarious, delightful series called Book Tales. And I will link those two videos down below, and so that you can enjoy them and see whether you have your own book tales to tell. So I appreciate you watching and taking your time out to be with me this morning. And take care, keep on reading, sigan leyendo mi gente, cuídense mucho, adiós.